let's learn about The Blood of Dawnwalker. The Blood of Dawnwalker is an open-world dark fantasy action RPG set in the fictional 14th century valley of Valle Sangora. You play Coen, who is human by day and vampiric by night, with 30 days to save his family from the vampire court that took control during the plague. Exploring doesn't spend time, certain actions do, so there is a unique timing mechanic involved in the game. Quests aren't divided into main and side paths, and waiting too long, failing, or losing someone can close opportunities without ending the whole game. Rebel Wolves is developing it in Unreal Engine 5, Bandai Namco is publishing it, and it's scheduled to launch on September 3rd, 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. The starting idea of the game was what game director Konrad Tomaszkiewicz, sorry for mispronouncing your name, called a reverse-werewolf. Coen, the main character in the game, would be human during the day and a vampire at night. Human Coen and Vampire Coen have different powers, combat options, routes into places, and ways of dealing with people. Tomaszkiewicz said building both sides of Coen was extremely expensive and almost felt like making two games. But the team kept it because the difference between day and night was the entire point of the character. The game's structure reaches back to tabletop role-playing campaigns and the early Fallout games. In a tabletop session, the person running the game has to respond when players ignore the obvious route, fail badly, or decide to attack somebody who looked essential. Rebel Wolves wants Dawnwalker to keep moving in the same way instead of treating every bad result as a reason to reload. The developers say nearly any non-player character can die and the game can still be completed, even if quests fail. Coen's hunger can create a consequence the player didn't choose on purpose, and spending time elsewhere can let an opportunity disappear. The 30-day limit decides which stories fit into one run. Game director Konrad Tomaszkiewicz directed The Witcher 3, and later held a senior production role on Cyberpunk 2077. He left CD Projekt Red in 2021 after a months-long internal investigation into workplace bullying allegations. According to a staff email reported by Bloomberg, the internal commission found him not guilty. He still resigned, however. He acknowledged that some coworkers had felt fear, stress, or discomfort while working with him. He apologized and left. He then founded Rebel Wolves in 2022 with other developers from The Witcher and Cyberpunk teams. Reporting in 2024 counted about 24 former CD Projekt Red employees at the studio. Rebel Wolves describes its structure as a smaller team with fewer management layers, more direct contact with leadership, and more ownership over larger parts of the game. Tomaszkiewicz has described that setup as a way to hear problems sooner and give experienced developers room to take risks. Rebel Wolves still needed outside money and worldwide distribution. NetEase bought a minority stake in 2022, while the announcement said the studio would remain operationally independent, keep full creative control, and own its intellectual property. Bandai Namco later became the global publisher for physical and digital sales. Rebel Wolves kept ownership of the New World while using two much larger companies for investment and distribution. Jakub Szamałek is the narrative director at Rebel Wolves. He was a senior writer on The Witcher 3 and a principal writer on Cyberpunk 2077, along with Thronebreaker, The Witcher Tales. He's also a novelist and earned a doctorate in classical archaeology at Cambridge. Szamałek has connected that archaeology background directly to The Blood of Dawnwalker. His work with Roman stories and medieval history feeds the myths and competing cultures inside the game. Valle Sangora, a fictional valley located in the non-fictional Carpathian European mountain range, lets the writers combine material from Central and Eastern Europe without placing every legend inside one modern country. Art director Bartłomiej Gowel and his team used the Vampire Court, the highest political authority group in Valle Sangora, to show how immortality changes the look of a group. These vampires weren't all transformed in the same place or century. Brancis began as a human senator, Xanthe comes from ancient Greece, and Bakir carries the history of a steppe warrior. Their clothing, silhouettes, and ages preserve those different origins instead of putting the whole court into one matching Gothic uniform. The same art research continues into the monsters around them. The official bestiary includes Yuriashi from Romanian folklore, Likos from Slavic traditions, kobolds from German folklore, and the Alpine Tatzelwurm. The creature designs use several regional traditions instead of stopping with the familiar vampires and werewolves. The score has 3 composers. Piotr Muzail and Mikołaj Stroński both worked on music for The Witcher 3. Nikola Kolodziejczyk comes from jazz as a pianist, composer, arranger, and conductor. The official music direction combines those backgrounds with folk instruments, mountain cultures, ritual, and ideas drawn from 14th century Europe. The combat team brought back Maciej Kwiatkowski, the stunt performer who helped create Geralt's combat movement for The Witcher 3. For Dawnwalker, the team asked him for less flashy, more grounded medieval movement. Kwiatkowski's motion capture was combined with historical sources and HEMA, H-E-M-A, or historical European martial arts to build movement around how medieval weapons were actually handled. The sword system uses attack directions and lets the player choose directional or automatic defense. The historical work affects what the player has to read during a fight, including the angle of an incoming strike and the direction of the response. Bakir's combat came from a different performer. Jan Błachowicz, a former UFC lightweight heavyweight champion, performed motion capture for the vampire. Rebel Wolves said his real fighting experience informed Bakir's swings, stabs, and punches, giving one member of the ancient vampire court movement taken from a modern professional fighter. Rebel Wolves is already talking about Dawnwalker as a wider series. The studio says future standalone games could move across different centuries, continents, and cultures. It has released a teaser with Coen in the modern day receiving a package of blood. Rebel Wolves says the idea isn't time travel and that each game is meant to tell a complete story instead of using an unresolved ending to force the next one. I am excited for this game to be released, as it is still not out as of the time of this recording. It's got that 14th century vibe that has a Witcher feel to it. I love it. It was created by many of the CD Projekt Red Witcher veterans, and it's been a while since we've had a fun vampire game to play. I hope it's good. Hopefully you learned something new about the Blood of Dawnwalker. Thanks for watching.